Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Ragusa McBean, and I am so thrilled to have my next guest join us on our Fail Forward Live podcast, and that is Sean Lardo. Sean is the VP of Partner Development at OIT. He also is on the board of Train Our Troops, a wonderful nonprofit established to help give back to our military vets. And Sean himself was an Army veteran for 9 years of service. We thank you for your service. In addition to that, Sean and Ray kept us all in stitches and entertained with the most amazing weekly tech bar podcasts and YouTube videos that I've ever been able to participate in and gave us some normalcy in really trying times. So, Sean, I'm so glad you're here, my brother from another mother.
What you know what? Thank you, Michelle. Uh, Brother from another mother. I love that line. I feel like it's so fitting in dealing with you because we have similar backgrounds. And probably, and this is probably going to lead to the whole conversation we're going to have today, is probably shouldn't be here today, right?
Absolutely. That's a great start. If you would like to just kind of intro your journey for us, I'd love to kind of have you start by that. Where did you begin and how'd you get to where you are today?
Sure. Well, that's a very long story. We might need like intermission and then
Okay.
segments of this. And
You have to say it in 1 minute or less. Go.
yeah. So, okay, starting with where I am today, as you mentioned, vice president of partner development at OIT VoIP. I worked my way through. I took the hard way, and I remember somebody telling me when I was young, "Stop being stupid because you're gonna have to do everything extremely. It's gonna be difficult for you the whole way from now till then." And he was absolutely 150% correct. And I apparently I'm a hard learner, and which I love. But what I would say is I won't take anything away from where I am today and how I got here because I feel like it's made me humble. I've been humbled many times over because you make mistakes regardless of whatever you do. If you go into anything thinking you're going to be 100% perfect, you're dead wrong. And that is probably the biggest testament in life in general. Um, from the start of my life, single mother, raised me and my brother. And at one point, we had 12 of us that lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-floor apartment that we rotated beds between my aunt and my cousins and like her daughters and whatnot. And we would rotate where we slept. So I remember because every Tuesday was I slept on the cushions on the floor night, but I was young, so it didn't matter. From the ages of 8 to about 10, this went on. During the course of those years, I turned into not the best of kids. Especially when your mother works full time and your paternal aspect is your brother that's 7 years older that has no business really raising you because he's 7 years older. So you talk about 17, 18 years old. He's not really trying to. He's not a father. He's not supposed to be. And although my brother is fantastic, he's a phenomenal guy, and he probably was a big part of my upbringing for sure. Not even probably, he definitely was. But swinging back around to being 16, 17 years old. I found myself getting in trouble. I barely. It's funny, and I know I'm going all kind of places, all kind of directions right now. But
I love it.
my high school, I was expelled from my high school, and I went to a school for the socially challenged alternative school, where they would have as many students as they had as many teachers. That way, the teachers couldn't be jumped by the students, basically. And the teachers were pretty badass people too, by the way. My teacher, my primary, I forget what they called him. I'm gonna say like counselor, teacher, mentor. Her name was Bonnie, and she was originally from Israel, and she was like 5 foot tall, like 95 pounds, ridiculous, right? And her husband and her both had been in the Israeli military intelligence before she came here. So she was like
Wow.
really badass, right? Like she was like, yeah. So, but anyway, she was my person. I remember there was a kid that I went to school with. He was much bigger and he tried to mess with her and like she put him on the ground in seconds. It was amazing. Like,
I love it. That
I
is
was like, I'm
gold.
glad you're my mentor. So yeah, so no, I went from that and I barely graduated. I barely graduated high school, but I ended up getting my diploma from my original high school. And it was funny because, and the reason I was getting into the story is because just 2 years ago, that high school asked me if I would come speak to their juniors and seniors
Wow.
about progress and where to go and direction. And when I did the presentation, the woman that was my valedictorian in my class was next to me presenting first,
Wow.
and I'm the only person that showed up with a PowerPoint presentation.
I love that.
And I was very organized, and I showed them my grades, my attendance. I start off with my success so I could work backwards from there. I'm like, why you should listen to me. Like, I'm
Mm,
not here to say I'm better than anybody because I'm nowhere near better than anybody I know. Matter of fact, most people I surround myself with are much smaller, much smarter than me. But I was able to show them, hey, here you go. This is who I worked with. These are some of my clients I worked with, like with Microsoft, ExxonMobil, Thomson Reuters, worked with YouTube at one point, and they were clients or they were indirect clients of my company that I was able to be involved in. And that catches like a 11th grade, 12th grader catches their eye right away. And then I said, and they automatically, they assumed that I had just been like this, role model student and collegiate post that even, and I showed them like, now let me show you who I was though, and how
I
I
love
got there. And I didn't hold anything back because they should know. And you actually had a question for me about being 21, what I would tell my 21-year-old self. Same thing I would
that.
tell to these kids, man, is you got to be completely honest with yourself. You got to say, I have a direct goal in mind.
I
I'll
love that. If it wasn't for Bonnie, do you think that you would have become who you are today? Is it
uh,
Bonnie that was the transition in your
it,
journey? And then
um,
what?
she's part of it. Absolutely. Like I will say this, when I saw her do that, first off, it prompted conversation. And she started telling me about the military. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And of course, you're a 17-year-old boy and you're like, my God, so I get to shoot guns and blow things up. Yeah. Yeah. That's not true, by the way. It's not how that happens. Not like that. It's not like in the movies. But that she was definitely a big part of it. My mother was a big part of it. My brother, and actually my family we're predominant women in my family for the most part, actually, because there were the four staples of our family were my grandmother and my mother and her two sisters. And my grandmother passed years back, but my mom and the two women, her sisters, it's still there. It's just the way it is. And they had no problem with telling on me to each other too. So anytime I was doing something stupid, I was always told on. So I was always in trouble. But they were a huge part of it. And then I'll go one step further. Probably, when I turned 18, I found out my girlfriend was pregnant. And I had my first daughter.
Mhm.
She's 26 now. She's probably the single most important reason why I switched gears.
Amazing.
Uh, yeah,
Maybe something to look for differently than the path you were on.
absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't have her. I couldn't have her go down what I was doing, and I couldn't look at myself and think, oh, I'm a good guy. I wasn't. I wasn't a good guy. I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't, and I also knew, and I was scared shitless too. Like, how do I do this?
Sure.
So, at the age of
We
18, I
all are at
was.
that age.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I tell my kids now, my daughters now, I'm like, you're never really ready to have a kid, just so you know. They always think like, we'll wait. I was like, there's no right time, just so you know, because you could be 20, 30, 50, 110. There's still a million other things you need to do first before you have a kid. So get that out of your head. You just got to, it's kind of like jumping off the high dive. You have to go do it. That's just, I'm not saying do it at 15 years old. Let's be very clear. That's not my message. Be responsible, but you're never going to be ready. But yeah, so 18 years old, I joined the Army. And so in my 18th year of life, graduated high school, had my first daughter, joined the Army, left for the Army, and then got married on my 18th year of life. Uh,
amazing.
yeah,
Those are big turning steps. A lot of life chapters right there.
that's what some people do in 15, 20 years. I was like, I'm going to do it in like 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I believe in sprints.
And so then you were there, you're married, you have your daughter, you're in the Army. Fast forward, you know, you're there, you have four daughters. We know that. I also have four daughters, two daughters, two stepdaughters. We started very similar ways in life. For those who
Yes.
don't know, I was raised by a single mom as well. First in my family to go to college, really pushed me to be who I didn't think I could be and see what I didn't think I saw. So I love that. And I love the idea of mentorship. And that was a big idea for this podcast is really, we talk so much about successes, but we really miss the idea of what happened along the way and the journey of who makes you who you are and why you are where you are. So fast forward to today, you're in technology. How did that happen? That's a big jump.
Yeah, you think? So over the course of the years, well, so in the Army, I did demolitions and ammunition and range management, and I started training people. So I learned early on that I liked to have an element of management, but I was
Hmm.
really more about the development of people. I really enjoyed the interaction with that, and I started learning how to talk to people. What I found is it's not about the industry; it's about the individual and the interest in whatever you're doing. My interest is always in people first. I
Right.
always prefer to talk to somebody and learn. I am a perpetual student, and I always will be. I realize there's so much more to learn. I've learned probably one millionth of everything there is to learn,
I love that.
and I'm perfectly happy with that. So I go about my daily life like that every single day. But how I got into technology was, oh my goodness, I worked for a company at one point, made some good friends. This was not technology related. And I left for another company at some point, and I brought some of my good friends with me. And then my good friend left that company after years and went to a technology company, said, "Hey, you should come with this. It's awesome." And it
Wow.
was, and so I was like, let me see how you do, because I was like, this is kind of scary. I know what you're talking about. Let me see how well you progress. And after about 9 months, he was like doing great. And I'm like, okay, he's like, we can do the interview with our global director. I'm like, sure, absolutely. So I sit down with him, and he says, and it's funny because I just met up with this guy, this global director. He became my mentor, and I
Wow.
just actually had lunch with him yesterday, coincidentally. And he says to me during the interview, he's like, "Hey, we met at Starbucks right next to Whole Foods in the city of Pittsburgh." And he goes, "So what do you know about technology and software?" Now this is back. This is some years back, of course. And I was like, "Well, I do a fantasy football site and we're on a website. I can change my lineup." I'm like, It's like it. I don't know."
That's pretty
And
important.
that's what I'm saying, right? It's extremely important. First you learn how to do it, and you gotta be consistent every week, and you gotta make your moves,
That's true.
right? It's a lot there. So hello, and I won too. And I told him, I was like, and I won my championship, just so we're clear. So I'm also a winner, apparently. So
I love it.
um and so I had done some research on the company, obviously, that I was talking to him about. And I said, so I saw these things. Do I know what that means? No, I didn't know what they meant at the time. So he was like, well, if anybody's really this honest and willing to say these things and be transparent, and make me laugh about it too, I think we could probably work together. And so he hired me on, and he put me through, like, he's like, okay, you're not gonna have a whole quarter to hit your quota, so I'm gonna give you a very small quota because you don't know what you're doing anyway. We're gonna give you some ramp up time. And so, like, not only did I hit the quota early, but I beat everybody else's numbers too. Like, he was like, "Oh,
Nice.
we're gonna have to raise your numbers." I'm like, "No, no, no, no." We agreed on these numbers, and so and that was so many years ago, and I just started to I fell in love with not I mean we I fell in love with technology because I use technology to do business every day. And if you can translate what you're doing, if you can translate the very difficult technical jargon into the way you really use it, it starts to make sense. You translate to yourself, and you're like, oh, I get why. Like, we're on this video, I get how to use video and why it's important. I translate to the importance of my day to day. That's everything I do. So over the years, I ended up lucky, had some very good people, um, progressed through some companies. I've now been part of 5 startup companies that,
Wow, that's something.
yeah, it's been a lot. And I'll tell you, I was in corporate America for a little bit, and I was in startup. I love startups. I love the passion behind the founders. Like, there's and I enjoy the scared aspect of it. Like, holy hell, we're
Mhm.
either going to really be wildly successful, or we're all going to be eating ramen noodles for a year. You know,
Yeah, that's
uh,
right.
yeah, I love that. But I was fortunate enough to be part of now my 5th startup at OIT, and not that they're a startup, like OIT and Ray and team has been around for years, but they were looking to scale, and Ray and I were good friends. He was my client back in the day, and we started to work together. He's like, I took a company, actually my last startup prior to this, we took the acquisition. And so I kind of was lingering. And as leadership, as you know, it's kind of like when you acquire, they're like, it's time for you to
Right,
go soon.
right.
And so I was like, and actually I took my leave before they told me to leave, because I really had nothing to do. They had nothing for me to do. It wasn't like there was no problems. It just was what it was. And so came here, started working with Ray. We've done wildly successful. There's no ramen noodles, I can assure you. Um, Yeah,
Although I do love me some ramen noodles. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
agreed. It's not every day for 3 meals a day.
No, no, not for that. And so for anyone who doesn't know what OIT does, can you tell them about it? Just a
Sure.
little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. So we're a VoIP provider. We work, but we do not provide VoIP to the end user. We do provide the end user. We just don't sell to them. We work with only partners. So we offer two programs by a channel partner program and a white label program. Predominantly 99% of our partners are MSPs. We get along well with them, and we don't not only do we provide the actual phone services for them to actually give their customers, but we also provide the ability to enable them to actually grow their business. We've gone an extra mile, and this is kind of where my world's taken me is I love helping people grow their businesses, obviously because all these startups, but now I get to work with 500 or 600 startups now, some, all these MSPs, and we help them with marketing and sales and processes, and then obviously the VoIP technology itself, which is great. It's right up my alley because at the end of the day, it's so important. It's so important that we can help people because we're all stuck here regardless. And I'm not Bill Gates, so I can't just do what I want. And I don't own Amazon. So yeah, we all need each other. But yeah, it's so IT VoIP. We're based out of Miami, Florida. But we have offices. I'm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have an office here. We have an office North Carolina, Nevada, Toronto. I think that's it right now. We've grown exponentially. We've had great success. So
That's amazing. That is really good.
thanks.
And none of those CEOs are nearly as stylish as you. So you have that going for you,
You know what?
actually.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, look, like we look good. Like
As always.
Ray looks good. Ray dresses. He's a great dress. Like I have to step up my game, and it pisses me off because he has really nice clothes, and he has really good hair, which makes it even worse. And he's like, and he flaunts it. He brushes it in front of me. He thinks it's funny. It's not funny. Not funny at all.
So this brings me to my next question. It's not about your hair, don't worry. So when we look back at your successes, and you've had a lot of them, I want to turn the page and think about your failures. If you look back in your life, what was your greatest failure and what did it teach you and why?
Wow. My greatest failure. Wow, that's a loaded question. I can go so many different ways with this. I don't know that I had one greatest failure. I've had many greatest failures. Um, you know, so I think I think I failed first off, like even in the army, I had a chance to make a lot more progress even in my own career. Now, granted, I decided not to stay because by the time I had deployed for 9/11 and I came back and I already had three girls and I wanted them to know me. And that's when I got out after I came back from 9/11. And so I got out at 9 years. Should usually do 8 years. So anyway, it's and any veteran that's listening to like, there's not 9 year, enlistments. You're absolutely right. I got put on stop loss and they held me out over a year because of 9/11. So when I came back, you're now part of a rotation for deployment and I could have left or I could have stayed and I could have got promoted. But I feel like I didn't take full advantage of everything I had while I was in there. I feel like so it's not like there's like one devastating loss. I've had plenty of setbacks. I honestly, if you're not making mistakes and you're not getting set back, you're not really trying either. Then
Right.
you're just passively going through life. And I can't. I don't know. I don't have a half speed. I don't even have 100% speed. It's like 150% speed for me. Like
This is why you're my brother. I think we're
right.
cut cloth on that. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right. 100% in, 150% into everything you do. Right.
Yep. I,
And I,
I I think I think the problem. I think the biggest. But I'd say if I had a biggest failure, I would say it was and this is I've changed since then. Is I took a lot away from my family and
mm,
being selfish in my career at one point, and it was. And it's when you're younger, you don't see it. And me being a young father, and this is no excuse by any means, but when you're young, you don't see you're not hindsight looking, you're not as worldly, and it takes you 10 times longer to do one thing that an experienced person can do in a minute. You're at 10
right.
minutes. And I put my family on the back burner for a long time, and that affected me long term. It took actually with my older girls, it took me years to rekindle the relationship because they were pissed off, rightfully so. And so, but now I've made it a point, and this is one major piece of advice: no matter how hungry you are, You have to balance things out. Now, I'm not going to use the term work-life balance because I think that's a bullshit concept, because if you love what you do and you're doing it and you have no other responsibilities, you can work 24 hours a day for all I care. Because if it's your
You're
passion, it's your passion. But I do think you have to make sure you discipline yourself in your work, and also in ensuring that you take care of your family, whatever that means. That could be a cat or a dog. I don't care. But I've done like really, I schedule in my calendar times to ensure that I'm at the I'm at the plays at school. I'm at PTA dad. I can't bake, so let's be clear. I don't bake anything because I suck at it. But I bring really good food from Sam's Club.
nice.
Like I
And
bring
poor
a
girl, they
variety
don't
of.
want you anyway, so you're fine.
Yeah, they don't want my stuff, and they get excited because I bring like 6 different pies of all flavors and buffalo chicken dip, and they're like, "You're the
Oh,
greatest." Thank you.
yeah.
So yeah,
I
so
love
no,
work-life integration. That's what I call it. The
yep,
ability for
absolutely,
you, because there's going to be times where you're putting more into work and more into your home, and it's going to ebb and flow. And I
agreed,
love the idea of scheduling that time for your family and just putting it on your calendar, because the
absolutely.
thousand pieces will always come up. There's always a reason to do it later or do it tomorrow. You have,
Absolutely. And you got to play on your kids' terms as well. So I have all girls.
mhm.
So us going to a wrestling match isn't ideal for them. So years ago, I started having salon days with them, where we would go to the salon and I would get my nails done with them. Like, and I actually have, and you can go on, it's public, so I'm not hiding anything. You can go on to my Facebook profile and see my toenails painted various colors for various things that we're doing. Like
I love
even like matching, like when they were going to homecoming or prom, my first one, I matched their dresses and stuff. Like I was like, but if you don't have, again, I have all girls. So it's not like if they don't want to go see a football game, I can't make them. I mean, you want to teach them and you want to bring them into your own too, but there's a certain degree where they develop their own habits, their own interests, their own wants, and you have to entertain that and be there with them. And it's so much easier to go do that than is to argue about it for the next 3 years or them hold it
that.
against you. So
It's
yeah,
sort of just like everything you do with anyone you do it, you have to listen to them and their needs, your clients, your
agreed,
children, your family. It's not about what you want, it's more about what's right for them. And then that
agreed.
makes you very special in their eyes because you're hearing their language of what's
Absolutely.
important.
It's active listening is so important. It's a critical element to every day of your life. And if you don't even know what the compromise really means, and you don't compromise then. You
Yeah,
just do. And it's like it goes back to the do as I say, not as I do concept, which is that works when your kids are 4, because obviously they can't use a knife and you're using a knife. But after a certain point, you can't keep saying that to them. It's not logical, it's not rational. And that's even for and this goes back to your employees too. Same rules apply. Like there isn't anything that I make any of my employees or my team members do that I haven't done myself or not willing to do. And then above and beyond, like,
I love
period.
that. Yeah, you
So,
have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and get on in there, and your team will respect you more for it, and your
absolutely.
company will respect you more for it if you've been there and done it with
Ab-
them.
Absolutely. Like, I still am in production as a sales and marketing person, as well
Right,
as managing my team. I love to be on both sides. How else can I tell you? If you tell me that doesn't make sense and I don't do it myself, how can I really discuss it with you? How can I can't look at 30,000 degrees up and say, it looks like you really messed up down there.
right.
I can't
It's
see
so
that far.
you're in the weeds with them. I love that. So, somebody just starting out in their career, what advice would you give them since you've gone through this exciting journey?
Well, it's not a one-stop shop in life. You don't know what you really want to do until you're kind of there. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, I mean, there's some people we know that you saw when you were young and said, I want to be a doctor. And they actually went and became like, that was their passion. But those people that say that are few and far between, that know that at a young age and actually go do that and go realize that. Most of us are just trying to figure out. I mean, I'm 45 and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I don't even know. I still don't know what to do when I grow up. I'm gonna figure it out eventually. But always just involve yourself in a culture that you enjoy around good people. Surround yourself with good people, people that can teach you things,
Mhm.
and then also surround yourself with people that you can also help. Good intentions, quality characters. That's important.
Right,
But pick a path. At least pick a path to start with, and the path should be constant production on your own self. Constantly work on yourself, and I don't care what it is, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's reading a book, eh, all the above. Try to become as worldly as you can, so you can get a better understanding of what's going on, and you can be more empathetic to people. but you can also maintain your own roots and keep pushing yourself, period.
I love that. So, and that's a great follow-on question. So, what resources have you found most helpful in your journey, whether it's books or podcasts, Audible, certain people? I'd love to hear.
Sure. So when you're in the army, you have a lot of downtime. You do a lot of reading, especially when I was in. This was like the '90s. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have anything. So lots of books. And so I would say this though: in reading books, I'm not saying just go read self-help books, okay? Because that's nonsense. Read some, like there are great books like The Go Giver, and they ask you answer. There's tons of those that can give you a way to reflect, and read them at various times in your life too. Though, if you read it at 20, read that same book at 30 because your perspective has changed and you're going to pick up things that you didn't realize were in there.
I love that.
Um,
Yeah.
but also read stuff you like to read too. Like I like to read those things, but sometimes I read them just for the sake of I want to learn something, right? And sometimes I'm like holding my eyes up. I'm like, geez, I can get through this. But like I like sci-fi horror, so I read sci-fi horror books. I mean, I think I actually, yeah. See in my bag. See, I read this stuff too. Like I love this. Okay, so reading is great for me. People are great. Like I said, everybody I surround myself with, I am their student as much as they're my student.
Me too.
Uh, I I like to meet people. Like I'll even use your husband. I read his stuff. Jay writes really good stuff. Sometimes I don't agree with it, but that's fine. It doesn't
Sure.
matter.
I was
But
going to say it makes one of us that I read it all. Just kidding, honey.
no, no, I like reading Jay's stuff because I like you find your realm of where you belong and the things you can comprehend at your level. And I can take things out of what he's written to learn. And I'm not going to, this is not the Jay show, by the way. So we'll get off of Jay now because he's Canadian and in Florida. He tried to get as far away from Canada as he could. It's weird. You'll be
Yeah,
in South America in no time. Um,
I wish.
but no, it's important to read. It's important to involve yourself in what's going on with understanding current events at it to a degree. And it's good to again find the right people. I have several mentors. I'm 45. I don't stop looking for mentors. I have mentors that are younger than me, that talk about things, and I have mentors that are older. And I look from various places, like based off of personality, but also and their business and everything else. But not just that, but also from like you're more like my business coach, but he's more like my social coach in a way. They all have their own elements that they bring to the table, and it keeps me very diversified.
Sure. I love that. So, I love to travel. The
Hmm.
pandemic's been a long year. And I think we did discuss this on your show, but I
Yes.
was wondering, now that we're opening up more, people are getting vaccinated, the world is kind of becoming, it depends where you live, right? We still
Yep.
have a lot of places that are still suffering. And so we pray for them. Hope everyone's going to come out of this okay, healthy soon. But when you can travel safely, where are you going next? Where's your first stop?
Well, I mean, I never stopped traveling. I, I feel like, and people laugh about it, but I think I was treated for COVID in the '90s with the Army. I'm pretty sure they gave us so many things. Like every time we deploy, you're like, take this pill, take that pill. Like I just think I've already had all this stuff, and I'm never going to die. That's what I tell my daughters. I'm like, I'm never ever going to die. I'm going to make you miserable the rest of your lives. Like that's what's going to happen. Like you're going to change my diaper when you don't even have to. I'm just going to make you anyway, like you made me. This is what I look forward to. Um, so yeah, I'm not joking. Like that's really, I tell them like forever, and their husbands, their spouses are going to be annoyed with me. The grandchildren will love me because I won't care. Like, "Hey, sure, have candy. I don't care. Do what you want." Um, but I did travel. Like I just got back from Mexico a few weeks ago.
Nice.
I know, right? But I'm traveling in a few weeks. Actually, I'm going to ASCII in Houston.
Awesome.
Um,
Great.
yeah, I love the peer group element. Jerry's the man. He's from Pittsburgh originally too, so it even helps.
Nice.
We get along fabulously. But we actually put together our schedule for the year, and I'll be traveling every month. We're going to several ASCII events, several channel pros, IT Expo, channel partners, IT Nation. Yeah, I'm in all those. So
Awesome.
I
Great.
got
So
3 weeks
somebody
in town.
wants to find you. How can they connect with you online? Or
Uh,
how can they
I'm
find you?
everywhere. I'm everywhere. Like at this point, no, you can actually. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I couldn't keep up with it. I just couldn't do it. I tried so hard, just can't.
Don't be
Facebook. It's
a
hard. I tried with you. You're good on Twitter. Like you guys are. I can't. I'm like it's a lot. I'm everywhere else. So if you want to find me, you can email me Sean at oit.co. That's easy. But Facebook, my name obviously Sean Lardo. LinkedIn, Sean Lardo, kind of easy. Those are the best places to find me. I'm on Discord, which MSPs love that, and I'm on there, and they talk nonsense on there, which is great. But yeah, you can, and we have a YouTube channel, OIT VoIP YouTube. You can always get in there. We have tons of videos. You're on them actually. You're on several.
Thank
Like
you. I love
you're like
joining you, part of the
you're
tech
like,
bench.
yeah,
The tech
you're like family. You're
I
like
am.
family. I mean, you're already my family. You were already my
Oh,
family before that, but now you're like their family too. Like, I, I had to draw boundaries there. I was like, she was mine first. Like, she's my family. You're like the distant second cousins. So know your role.
third cousin twice removed.
Yeah, their dog's friend. Yes.
So if last final buzz round, if you could step into my shoes and ask yourself anything I've missed, what would you ask yourself?
Are you fulfilled?
Good question. Are you?
Always, every day.
Wow.
I live every day completely full. I obviously we have regrets in our life, so to say I have no regrets would be nonsense. But I know that everything that I've done from then to now had to happen for me to be here, and the fact that I am here, where some people can never even get to, and the fact that I never should have been, is
Well, I think
fulfilling.
you're
This,
exactly where you should be.
yeah,
I
right.
do.
Yeah, no, but you know that, but that's the humility behind that. That's a humbling experience. It's a humbling element of it. Is I knew, like, I mean, I believe I should be here. I 150% should be exactly where I am. If not, I need to be further along, which I will get there.
Yes.
But I enjoy it every day, and I am fulfilled. I am fulfilled for many reasons. I mean, I am a single father, and I raise my dog. I'm in the PTA, like I said. I do all these things that I go through it day to day, and to be needed and loved, and to have goals and to have accomplishments is a huge deal for me.
I love it. Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure having
Thank
you
you.
join me. I look forward to having a drink with you in a real bar sometime soon at an event. And anytime you need anything at all, please reach out. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Make sure you connect with Sean, Ray, and the whole team at OIT. They're absolutely incredible. Tune into the tech bar. You need a few drinks to watch it. I'm not going to lie to you. uh, have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Michelle.